Hello Year 4 and welcome to Tuesday's English lesson. Today you're going to be writing your own recipe based partly on the ones that we've been looking at and partly on your own ingredients for George's potion. Let's look at the recipe that you looked at for your task yesterday, Bruce Bogtrotter's cake, and recap what we were looking for. So the first thing I asked you to look for were imperative verbs, those bossy verbs that tell you what to do. Hopefully you've got a list of verbs that you found. These are the ones that I've found. They include melt, mix, add, and cook. What's important about these verbs though is that you're specific about them. If you look at my 3 instructions that I've got here, can you find a better imperative verb for each one? Pause the video, read them through and see what you think. The first one says wipe butter inside the tin to stop the cake sticking. Well, that has a proper name. For that one, we want the imperative verb grease. If you grease the tin, that's what you're doing, you're stopping it from sticking. Second one here, use one of those wiry things that mixes the stuff. Now we know that's not good enough. All right, what I mean is one of these. So what's it called? Yeah, it's a whisk. So your imperative verb needs to be whisk the mixture. The last one is make it hot until it turns into a liquid. Well, you know from our science last term that there's a much better word for that. If we're heating something until it becomes a liquid, what are we doing with it? We're melting it. And that's on our list here. So make sure that your verbs are really specific so people know what to do. The other thing I asked you to look for were adverbials, phrases and words that tell you how, when, or where to do something. And again, in this recipe, there are a lot of them. Let's have a closer look at a few of them. So I've made a list here and I've colour-coded them depending on what type of adverbial they are. So the green ones, on a low heat, lightly and thoroughly, tell you how to do something. The blue ones, in a Pyrex bowl, in the tin, or on a wire rack, tell you where to do something. The purple ones, until melted and for approximately 35 minutes, tell you when to do something or how long to do it for. Again, have a look at my 3 instructions that I've written. See if you can put in a much more specific adverbial that helps the person making the recipe. The first one, cook it for a while. Well, that's no good. How long is a while? You might end up eating raw cake mix or you might end up burning it to a crisp. So you need to be more specific. Cook it for approximately 35 minutes. Approximately just means roughly. Leave it to cool in the kitchen. Where in the kitchen? On the floor? In the sink? In the washing machine? You need to be more specific. So leave it to cool on a wire rack. And mix it lots. Technically that's okay, but lots isn't a very good word and it doesn't make your recipe sound very grown up. You need something like mix it thoroughly. That would be a much better choice of adverbial. Looking at the layout of this recipe, remember we've got the title, which is the name of what we're making. You've got your list of equipment and ingredients of what you will need. And then you've got all your instructions in chronological order, in the order that you need to do them. When you're writing your own recipe, it's up to you how you set it out. You're going to do it on paper rather than on Google Classroom because it gives you much more freedom in how you can set it out. And we do sometimes need to practice our handwriting. You can either put your paper portrait or landscape, and it's up to you how you arrange the parts of your recipe. These are just a couple of ideas. This is how I've decided to set mine out. I've got my title at the top, Miss Woodward's Wonderfully Whiffy Medicine. I've managed to get some alliteration in there as well. And I've got my equipment that I need here and my ingredients as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to write my instructions and then add to my lists here as I go along. Otherwise, I might write a really long list of ingredients that you need and then forget to mention one of them in my instructions. So far, I have place the saucepan on the stove. Slowly pour in 500 millilitres of boiling water. 500 millilitres is about a pint glass. So my next instruction, I might write, let's put something disgusting in there. Okay, so drop in 4 pairs of smelly, worn socks. In 4 pairs of smelly, worn socks. And what do I want them to do with the mixture? Let's think of another imperative verb, and stir thoroughly. So now I need to go back to my list here. Now, if I'm stirring it, I'm going to need something to stir it with. So let's put a wooden spoon. And I've added another ingredient, so I need to add that to my list. 4 pairs smelly socks. There we go. So just to recap, here is your recipe for success for today. You'll need a pen or pencil, some blank paper, your imagination, some verbs, adverbials, and technical language. Remember that vocabulary we were talking about. Your instructions are to decide on a good title for your recipe. What are you going to call your medicine? Can you use some kind of alliteration, like in George's Marvellous Medicine? Instruction 2, look back at the list of ingredients that you made back in week 2, lesson 1, so that would have been last Monday, and decide which order you're going to add them in. And then carefully write each instruction for your recipe. Make sure you use imperative verbs, good vocabulary, and adverbials to add more information. Now you've got 3 lessons to do this if you need to, so there is no rush. And today you're just doing your draft version. You're working out what all your sentences are going to be and what order they're going to be put in. Tomorrow we're going to be editing and improving our work before we do our final version, so don't get carried away with decorating today. I hope you enjoy writing your recipe. See you tomorrow.